The In It Together with Lynn Greene talk show is a positive way to start your day. Ready for some encouragement?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm pumped. Let's let the healing begin.
Come be inspired, hear moving stories, even laugh out loud.
Can't make heads or tail of what I'm saying.
Just incomprehensible.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
You'll hear real people doing real things to make a real impact.
You are heroes every day.
Hear honest, compassionate, engaging issues you care about.
You see people come together to do good in our community, and the more we come together, the more good we can do.
Listen in and get started on redesigning your life and hear what's positive in Greater Manchester. Here's your happy host, Lynn Greene.
Good morning, friends in Greater Manchester. Welcome to In It Together. We are so glad that you've tuned in. If you'd like to find us on the web, you can go to inittogether.net, listen live, watch our previous shows, even link to our Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and LinkedIn. And if you like and follow us, you'll see we are bringing out the best in people to influence positive change in this community and beyond. Today is The Good Life with yours truly, and these segments are about, or this show is about, helping you move forward in your life. So we'll eliminate some challenges and hopefully encourage, inspire, and motivate you into whatever God has called you to do. So we'll be back after this brief message, so stay tuned.
Mark Major knows that great coaches need constant training to be effective. As a certified coach, teacher, and speaker with the John Maxwell team, Mark can help you identify and activate your personal and professional goals. If you seek to do more and be more, look up Mark on the web at johnmaxwellgroup.com/MARC Major or call 603-674-6818. Mark Major, growing leaders and adding value. CrossNet Inc. offers computer and IT services for commercial clients as well as local personal users. We create tailor-made plans for your business's unique needs, from computer repairs to managing networks, servers, and desktops. CrossNet Inc. offers managed services, data backups, virus protection, web filtering, and more. For more information, go to crossnetinc.com or call for your personalized IT services today at 603-589-2520. CrossNet Inc. IT services that keep your business running when you're on the run.
Hi, I'm Bob Bolek, Chief Instructor of Defensive Strategies and anchor of the Personal Safety segment. We talk about personal protection, situational awareness, and home defense. Tune in every Thursday at 9 a.m. and refuse to be a victim. Only on In It Together with Lynn Greene.
Welcome back to In It Together. My goodness, what is going on with all this sound? I think it's this computer. I can't wait to get the new one. There's a lot of interaction, and it doesn't like when I move. But I refuse to hold my breath because I'm alive, and I'm, as today's topic is about, stop trying to figure everything out. I'm not going to try to figure this out right now. Although there's a buzzing. Does anybody else hear a buzzing? Goodness, I don't know what that is. But anyway, really excited to be here this morning, this Monday morning. And, I was thinking about doing the show. Every week I think about, what are some of the things that are going on that I've helped people with, that I've overcome, that I don't struggle with anymore, I guess you could say, or aren't a big challenge to me anymore. And one of them is trying to figure everything out all the time. I don't know about you, but I used to be very analytical, and I could not get out of my head about everything. And that's a good thing in some ways, because I'm also a visionary, so I can see a room, or I could see something as it is, but see what it can be more than what it looks like now, and be able to create that Um, so with that in mind, today I want to talk about if you've ever got yourself in that kind of situation where you're talking yourself in circles in your head and you're trying to figure stuff out all the time. I just want to tell you today, hopefully the noise will slow down for you a little bit, or I don't know. I didn't overly prepare for the show. Again, I'm just being myself. I'm not trying to figure everything out. But I do have a commitment to come here every Monday morning and share from my heart and my experiences, and from helping other clients get through things. I don't even think I mentioned my company that much, but there's another company that I have. It's called Alpha Advancement Strategies. That's alphaadvancementstrategies.com. And I do advancement strategy sessions with people in their lives in a variety of areas, whether it's professional or personal growth, spiritual growth, which is really a big part of what I do. Obviously, I'm a believer, so that's a whole different way of doing things and a whole different way of looking at things than the regular coach would do. We have value in different ways, but this is the way that I find that works best for me. So the worst thing, a lot of times we think, what's the worst thing that can happen? And then we just kind of hone in on that and we focus on it. And we look at it as kind of a negative. We can tend to be fear-driven in, oh my gosh, if I don't do this or if I don't figure this out, then this will happen. And so a lot of our motivation can come from that. And so I want us to kind of think about, chances are, I forget what the percentage was, but it was fairly high. Between 60 and 80% of what we think will happen never ends up happening anyway. And so preparing yourself for what you need to do is important. But a lot of times we spend more time shoving, and I mean shoving knowledge into our brains to the point where we're not really able to experientially walk it out. It just becomes a lot of knowledge that fills up a lot of space, and it doesn't leave a lot of room for creativity. And this is why when I say stop trying to figure everything out, I found that the answers that I need come more when I just empty my mind and when I become quiet about it and just, look past the problem to the solution. Like we talked about that, I think it was last week or the week before. Last week we talked about identity. So when we're talking about this, everything comes from that. But a few weeks ago, we talked about how to approach any problem, how to look at it, how to solve it. And it's completely opposite of the way we normally do. Instead of focusing on what's wrong with it, look at, have a lighter heart about it and think about it as the possibilities with that. And in other words, when I was talking about fear before, how we're so driven by fear because we're afraid if we do this, then this would happen. If we don't do that, then that will happen. If we get out of that cycle and we begin to say, what if what happens is less important than the state that I'm in to be able to move forward? Because that's really the way it works, is if you really want to move forward and enjoy it while you're doing it, then the best way to do it is just relax. Look at all the different options and possibilities you have, and don't fear that you're going to make the wrong one, the wrong choice, or the wrong, because there's no such thing really as the wrong one. It really comes down to, how am I experiencing this? You want to enjoy it. You can choose whichever way you want to go. You'll eventually get to your destination, so why fear it? Just, you have options. And that's the thing you have to think about. I always have options, so I don't always have to be figuring it out and worrying about if I'm making the wrong choice. So as we were talking before, we're always trying to shove things in our mind and figure things out to the point where we have all this knowledge and we don't use half of what we know. So what if we eliminated all the peripheral, filling our minds with stuff that isn't really going to help us in this moment, and just focused on the things that are going to help what we're doing right now? I'll just tell you this, and my friends know this too, that in my half-century plus life, I'm going to stop there because I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But I feel like it's ridiculous, not only when I try to figure everything out and I get flustered and I'm worried about this happening and that happening, but it's horrible to watch somebody else go through it. And so for me, that's what really drives me in when I'm coaching people is I want to help them get out of their pain, discomfort, stress, and fear quicker so that not only will they get over it, but I don't have to watch it. So I know maybe that's a little bit selfish, but the truth is, as I always say, is we're only as good as the weakest link around us. So as I have people around me in my life, I want to see them thriving, enjoying their life. As the military used to have a commercial, it's to be all they can be, but more importantly is to be all that God has meant them to be. And to discover that, we got to stop this analytical, in my head, trying to figure everything out thing and just discover, who am I? Last week we talked a lot about that, about identity and how to get there, and learning how to just live from being who you are rather than trying to always find something outside of you to do that. Okay, well, I don't know why we do that to ourselves. I think we do it over and over in cycles until we realize, okay, I'm tired of this, and we just give up. You know what? Maybe giving up is probably the best thing you can do, because you stop striving, you stop pushing, you stop trying, the best thing is to just relax, enjoy it. Like today, I didn't know everything I want to talk about today. When I started off, I used to think, oh man, I better have every note, everything that I want to say perfectly aligned. And it sounded like I was reading a script. And then after a while, I got out of my head and started saying, you know what, why don't I just connect with people and try to help them understand what I mean rather than give them a bunch of things that I'm going to say. And isn't that better? Isn't that better? And I think that's what I'm trying to say as far as what we're doing too. Why don't we just connect with what's meaningful to us, what we care about, from a place of, love rather than fear. And when we do that, it outflows naturally. And so, let me just look at my notes here for just a minute, not to read them, but just to make sure that I'm not missing a point here. All right, so here's the thing. We all have to make plans for our life. The Word of God tells us that we will make our plans, but He guides our steps. But when we're trying to figure everything out, are we really letting Him guide our steps? Or are we, mentally hindering, I guess, that flow, that creative flow, that ability to see from that perspective like we talked about last week, that higher perspective? So we can make plans, but it doesn't mean that we don't remain flexible in them. We want to be open to, hey, not how it's going to happen as much as why it's going to happen, and then just kind of let it unfold. I have to do that every day. I mean, when you're in any kind of media, there's always problems that are going to pop up. There's always things that are going to pop up. I know in your life you probably have areas as well. As a matter of fact, I want to welcome all of you who are listening via internet radio right now, all of you live streamers. I welcome your comments, your questions, your thoughts. As a matter of fact, I made a decision when I started this segment on Mondays that it's easier for me if there's interaction and I know exactly how to address something that maybe you're going through, or you have a comment about how you dealt with something. It's easier for me to continue the show. Normally it's 40 minutes, but hey, you know what? If it doesn't happen that way, that's okay with me. We're not locked in, and you know what? You got to learn to be in that freedom. You're not locked in. If the show's 10 minutes of quality and it makes a meaningful impact to you, then I'm excited. Well, I don't want to sit here rambling on for 40 minutes and have you just roll your eyes and go, what in the world is she saying? But that's what we do in our heads all the time. We do this in our heads all the time, trying to figure everything out. And so I've learned to just put that down. That's something you pick up and you can put down. Okay, so when we think about life, life happens. How often? And here's a question to offer you. Maybe you can make a comment on. How many times have you been going through life with your plan and then something happens and it kind of shifts the direction of everything that you were doing? How did you respond to that? Did it make you anxious? If it did, you're in good company, because a lot of people, that brings up a fear. But what we can learn to do, and what I've learned to do, is in that moment, instead of letting that get you afraid because something doesn't look like you think it should look, you put yourself in a place of just resting and in peace, and then just say, okay, I see the problem, but now I'm going to start to try to look at what are my potential best outcomes that could happen here, rather than what's wrong. And when you do that, not only do you see it from a calmer place, but when you're not in fear, that can flow a lot easier. And I think that's something a lot of people don't realize. They feel like they got to push and they got to make it happen, and they got to, worried about what somebody else is going to say or what somebody's going to think. Oh, trust me, I've had a lot of those people in my life too. They're probably still out there. I just still love them. I'm like, you know what? I used to be like that. I used to have kind of a critical spirit. I would point out what was wrong with people, but this whole way of thinking, I used to try to figure out people, what made them tick, why did they do the things they did, and for a time maybe it was good for understanding's sake, but when it crosses that line into critical or judgmental or anything like that, now we've come out of the place that we want to be in. To be a blessing. We want to look at it from a better perspective than that. So if you're watching or listening, think about a time where you've been trying to do something, maybe things have been going great for a while, and then you're in the last stretch of getting something done and something horrible goes wrong. And you find yourself in this situation. Maybe you have a deadline, something like that. What do you do? What do you do in that situation? You have to sit there and figure it out. But I'll tell you something. There's two ways we can get the answer to what we're trying to do. One is to try to figure it out, push, get anxious, fearful, and worried. And usually what that does is that blocks your ability to actually see the possibilities that you're trying to find. And then the other way is to say, okay, worst case scenario, I'm going to look at the possibilities. I'm going to see what's possible here. And because guess what? If I waste my energy on what could go wrong, and I still end up with a bad outcome, but if I put my energy on what could go right and I have a bad outcome, at least I have no regret. At least I knew I did the best thing and the journey wasn't so bad. It's like, you know what? I can still have another choice. Okay, so there's a comment here from Tanya. Lots of times she's had this. When she's in fear, it hinders what the Lord is trying to do in us and through us. That is so true, Tanya. That's exactly right. And this is why. Peace is really supposed to be our guide, not chaos. He's not the author of confusion. As a matter of fact, we know who is. Fear is not from God. Fear is a spirit, by the way. We can't overcome it. We can't beat it. The Word of God tells us that perfect love casts out fear. So if we want to overcome this, one of the things I had to do was immerse myself in letting myself see how God loves me and what His Word says about me. And that was extremely helpful for me to get out of my head and just say, you know what? Every little thing is going to be all right. Here's another thought. When we think about moving forward in our life, it really is important how we navigate this. It's important not in a fearful way, but in a way that we can enjoy it and still have the outcome that we want. And a lot of the things that are really most important that can actually get us there are completely opposite of the way that you would think. Let me kind of explain. A lot of times we think so much about what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, the goals we have, our dreams, and not that those are important, not that those aren't important, I should say. But I have found those things are the result of things that you don't really see. And let me just explain that. The things that really matter most are who you are as a person. So instead of thinking about what I'm going to do, think about who do I want to be? And from who I am, like we were talking about last week, then I will do those great things. Like character, having character, doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. I had an example of that last week when I had booked somebody on the show, and I had asked them a couple weeks in advance, and I hadn't heard back from them, so I just assumed maybe they weren't coming on, and I booked somebody else, so I was double booked. And at that point, the first person I booked came back and said, yeah, so what time do I need to be there? And I had already booked the second person. So I didn't get worried. I didn't get flustered. I didn't go, oh, no. I just said, well, it's simple for me because as the person that I am, having a character, you do the right thing. I could have done two things. I had two options. I could have said, oh, I'm sorry I didn't hear from you. I had booked somebody else. But I usually have such respect for the people that I invite on. I honor people in general. And to me, it's not about status. It's as a person, I invited them first. And so I decided, instead of telling them to wait, I told the second person, I'm really sorry, the first person I invited didn't get back to me, but got back to me later. And I feel like they need to come on. Ends up they didn't come on and the second person came on anyway. But that was a test that I passed, and I feel like those are tests we pass about who we're going to become rather than trying to figure things out, because who we are, it flows from that. All right, well, I'm going to go a little bit more into this after this break. Time seems to fly. So please support those who support us so that we can stay on air. I love meeting with you every week. So I'll be right back after this brief message. Stay tuned.
Little Leapers and Knowledge Keepers Childcare and Preschool offers learning experiences that give kids a healthy sense of self and meaningful connections to the world around them. We teach children from a positive perspective so they learn healthy conflict resolution and develop character. Owner Jennifer Lever has over 28 years' experience in child development. She's helped children learn to read as young as 18 months. Join our happy place where we make happy happen, located in Pinardville, bordering Bedford and Manchester. Call today at 603-491-1780.
Hi, I'm Lynn Greene, Advancement Strategist and owner of AlphaAdvancementStrategies.com. I've been very successful at helping people overcome stressful situations to get immediate results in their personal and professional lives. At Alpha Advancement Strategies, we provide a non-judgmental and supportive environment, empowering clients to focus more on reaching their goals. You can find us on the web at alphaadvancementstrategies.com or call us at 603-860-9260. Alpha Advancement Strategies is where you invest in yourself.
Hi, I'm Mark Major, certified coach and speaker. Join me Wednesdays at 9 a.m. for It's a Wonderful Life, all about leadership development and living a positive lifestyle. Only on In It Together with Lynn Greene.
Welcome back to In It Together, in the midst of the good life with yours truly. We're talking about not trying to figure everything out, but learning how to be you and flow from that this morning. And this is something that has been, I guess, one of the most wonderful things that I discovered in my life is to just be who you are and flow from that. And what I was saying before, where there are the things that we're not seeing, not just what we're doing, but the things that make us, our character, the integrity that we have. Faith is very, very big in my life. And, learning to love, to forgive, be patient, to stay in peace, to be gracious and kind to others. These are, some of these things are what makes you up. And wherever you are, be there, right? So your life is really just not a problem to be figured out, okay? Your spouse is not a problem to be figured out. Your kids, your friends, your mom. Life is not about a bunch of problems to be figured out. How you approach them, though, will help you figure them out easier if you're thinking about it the way that I'm talking about today, is letting it flow from who you are. And if you still have struggles, then you're still discovering what that is. And that's okay. You know, don't beat yourself up about it if you're not able to yet. Just, if you're going to do the work, get to work about discovering who you are, allowing God to show you that in His Word, and surround yourself with people who have that confidence in, who know who they are. Because I'll tell you something, we talked about it last week, the importance of knowing your identity and the environment that you're in and how that makes you successful. Because it's an outflow from the inside out. And I think if you work on your heart, if you work on who you are, when I say work on, I mean if you allow God to change you, if you allow Him to, what He says about you to be more important and more valuable to you than the circumstances around you, then you'll begin to live out from that place. We talk about the peace of God that passes all understanding, but it also guides our heart and our mind in Christ Jesus and what He finished for us, and that's the life we want. Some more comments here. I really appreciate the interaction this morning. Someone says that I'm learning to step out and use the talents that God has given me, praying for boldness, she said. He gives us specific gifts, and they're unique to each person, and they have so much value. That is so true. It is true. Praying for boldness is a good thing, and this is where that, like I said, being a person of faith, you know, faith is believing before something's actually materialized, but knowing that it's already there and just needs to manifest. That's like the finished work of Christ. Then I have another comment here. Says, I love you, Aunt Lori. I love you too, Kimley. Says, I love that you're sharing how people can work through life stress and anxieties. It's so important in this day and age. Everyone is so anxiety-ridden, and the world we live in glorifies that state more than it should. Absolutely. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Life was not meant to be full of fear and anxiety and all that stuff. It really wasn't. That stuff is learned. Fear is learned. You know, did you ever see kids? I have a story when I remember, I forget which kid it was, but I was standing next to a child that was probably barely walking, and they were on the table, and I was standing next to them, and then they jumped, and I caught their foot hanging upside down one day. Kids are fearless. Fear is learned. You know, we're institutionalized through education system and everything that we're not supposed to think for ourselves. Sometimes even in religious institutions and stuff, people go to certain places and they're taught how to think. And if they think outside of that box, they may get chastised, not just in there, but like as kids are growing up in school. You know, if they have an idea outside of what the teacher's showing them, maybe it's not acceptable. And I'll just tell you, I would change the whole way all education is done. I would completely change it. There's another country that I was learning about where they do 3 hours a day in school, and a lot of the time is spent in learning through play and creativity. And I'll tell you, their test scores are higher than anybody because they're not under so much stress. Kids can't learn that way. I can't learn that way, and neither can you. So we're talking about life not being a problem to be figured out, but it's supposed to be enjoyed. We're supposed to enjoy our journey, being ourselves, instead of trying to keep up with the Joneses all the time. I know so many people like that. You know, they buy everything everything they do is to impress their neighbor. I'm like, wow. I hope we haven't come to that. You know, I hope we haven't come to that, but unfortunately, that's the way it is for a lot of people. I'd rather live humbly and be a good human being and love people and care about them and help them to also enjoy their life rather than, you know, having all kinds of things and thinking I'm better than other people. I think that's what we've come to as a society, and we need to just slow down, focus on what matters. So as we're talking about not overthinking things, I know so many people, and you know this too. I'm skipping over a ton of my notes because we're running out of time already. But I think it was several shows ago, I got this epiphany. You know, we always have our to-do lists, all the things we have to do this week, what we have to accomplish. And it's not bad that we have that, maybe as a reminder, but it shouldn't be ruling over our life to the point where, you know, like cramming for a test when you're in school. You wait till the last couple days or something before you have a project due. That creates, some people get off on that kind of a thrill. I don't know. Maybe that's different. That motivates you. But that, you know, anxiety can motivate some people. But, you know, to me, I don't like it as a motivator. But all you really need to know is already inside of you. It's just discovering it, embracing it. What's in your hand already, what's in front of you, taking the next step. And when you do, and you do it in faith, what I've found is that instead of worrying about what's going to come next, is when you step through it, that next thing actually becomes clearer to you. You can't, I tell this to people all the time when they get caught up in this, is just do the thing in front of you, do the thing that God just told you, and until you do it, he's not going to open that other thing up for you. And that's why it is a walk of faith. And some people have to have all their ducks in a row before they even get started, and they miss out on so much experience and opportunity, and more importantly, they miss out on what they're made of, and how important the faith in their life is, how God really makes a way when there seems to be no way. And I think that's a great thing to learn, because everything doesn't rely on you. You learn to trust in something greater than yourself. And that's a pretty powerful thing to do, because it removes so much burden off your life. So let's see. We were talking about making to-do lists. You know, we get afraid of the unknown. So we make these to-do lists. We want to have our dreams and goals and figure everything out. And we waste a lot of energy sometimes that leads to disappointment when we overplan. Like I said, when I used to start doing the show, I used to overplan. I'd write everything out, and I'd spend hours on it. And then after talking, we ended up talking about very little about what we actually had on the notes, because it really depends. It's not about me. It's about connecting with you. So what are you saying? Well, who's watching today? I don't know, but guess what? God does. And he knows that I'm here to talk to you based on where you are. And I can't possibly know all that. And I think sometimes we get pretty arrogant in our minds thinking that we can know all that stuff. And we don't. So it really comes down to a real trust, learning to live led of his spirit, and a real trust instead of trying to figure everything out. So instead of planning everything out to death, okay, and making those daily to-do lists, focus on who you need to become and what you need to stop doing instead of this. And then you'll realize your dreams. And I know it seems contrary to reaching goals, and, you know, all the gurus out there will tell you it's the other way around, you know, and I think when you hear from God, yeah, you take massive action and you do that. But it's from a place of joy, not like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Two different places. One of them you'll enjoy, and one of them you won't. And if you're not enjoying your life, then it's not really life. It's like, I call it the living dead. And you don't want to live like that. So what if you were to take your to-do list and instead become the person you need to be and write a stop doing list? Envision yourself. Who do I want to be, and where do I see myself, and who do I have to be there? What do I have to stop doing in order for me to be there? Because you'll just naturally get there if you just stop doing the things that hinder you from doing that, okay? One of them is, the number one is to stop living from fear. Afraid of what will happen, what people will say, not being something, not having enough. Lack, having a fear of lack is huge for people. It controls their lives. Stop trying to control the outcome. Let it happen. Let it happen, and be present, be yourself fully. And a lot of times, if you can just relax like that, the outcome's better than you could have planned, especially when God's in it and you have faith. Stop procrastinating and making excuses or worrying. Stop being hard on yourself. Beating yourself up is not going to make you a better person. Stop feeling guilty when you make a mistake or trying to impress people. Stop doing that. Stop being so hard on yourself. I already said that. You want to accept that you're on a journey and that you're learning, and guess what? That's okay, because it's true for all of us. And anybody that denies that isn't being honest. Okay, so the other thing is stop being offended. If you have great people around you who want to help you be better, and they love you enough to tell you the truth, and rather than leave you in your mess, don't be offended by that. Be grateful for it. Stop blaming things or blaming people for why things haven't turned out. The truth is when they haven't, it's because we haven't aligned ourselves to, we haven't really had a revelation of how God has made us fully yet, and haven't just accepted and embraced it to a place where we take full responsibility for the outcomes that we have. Learn to be okay with being yourself, however goofy. I mean, I have friends that I hang out with, and I get goofy with them. It's okay. You're supposed to enjoy life. I think having fun is a little underrated. I think we should learn to have a little bit more fun. What's wrong with having some fun while you're doing things that you want to do? When my kids were little, they had a great feeling about cleaning their rooms. It's like, well, that's weird. Kids are supposed to hate cleaning their rooms. Well, my kids, every Saturday we had a routine. We'd get up, we'd have a great breakfast. I'd put on some really upbeat music, and we'd be dancing around, cleaning the rooms, and we had like an order that we did it, and I made it fun for them. And so it didn't have to be a bummer. And I'll tell you, that's when I said fear was learned, a lot of things are learned. Attitudes about how work, attitudes about things. We can instill that in our kids, instead of getting them to, have to think about and worry about and figure everything out and be stressed about it like we were. Why do that, right? Another comment here. It said, I find that I need to see that in others. Sometimes when I feel lost, and then I need to be that person for others and regain hope that people are good inherently. Well, yeah, I think so too. Let's see, a comment here, another comment. God has anointed you with so much peace, Lori. Just listening to you speak truth releases peace in my spirit. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Lisa. And you know what? And isn't peace part of the experience that really everything flows from that? Anything good flows from that. And that's why we got to stop trying to figure everything out. And, when we develop who we are and become who we are, everything flows from that. It's just a beautiful way to live. I used to live the other way too, very tightly wound, very critical, easily offended, judgmental. And what I realized is all those things I was to other people was really me acting out on myself. Man, that's profound. You need to think about that. The things that we get mad about with other people are things that we think we're judged by, and we need to settle that. Someone else says here that definitely takes away a lot of looking inward. It takes a lot of looking inward and being open to possibilities. It certainly does. He says God has led her to do really cool things, and she's met some really wonderful people. Absolutely, that's it. So many times we have opportunities all around us, and we miss them because we're so in our head. We're so trying to figure out and analyze. I know I used to be one of those people, when people would approach me, they were afraid to approach me. And I had to look inward and say, why are people afraid to approach me? And that's when I started saying, well, maybe if you smiled a little, maybe you didn't look so serious all the time and be so scary. And I was like, yeah, it's not, we got to stop thinking everything's all about us. I think you'll enjoy it so much more when we start to think about, hey, okay, well, God has me here right now, and he has these people around me. He's blessed me. How can I just be a blessing where I am? Instead of being in my head all about how I'm going to look and how I'm going to be and how I'm going to feel. The other night, there was some people came here. We had an event on Friday night, and I decided, I'm going to just go up and be me. And I went up and I went to talk, and I went blank. And all I could do was just laugh. And it was just pure joy. I was just happy to be there. I was happy to be in the room with the people. And I began to this joy just bubbled up in me, and I began to laugh. And it's like, you know what? I'm not going to try to make something out of this moment. I'm just going to let the moment be what it is. And, I think people have such a hard time with the quiet. Sometimes it's okay. Let there be some quiet in between. That's where really, some of the most profound things that I've had emerge from my life, that great visions, even the vision of everything that I'm doing here came from was maybe washing the dishes or taking a walk, sitting out on my deck. When I was just being quiet, when I wasn't trying to do something, when I wasn't trying to write goals. And so you got to learn to be okay with who you are. And then what you'll do will be a lot easier. And as you develop yourself, or let God develop you, everything will flow from there. It's more about who do you want to be, not what am I going to do. Okay, so whatever you do, just do it with all your heart. Live fully, laugh often, and love passionately. And I think life will be good. Well, we are out of time, unfortunately. But I appreciate all of you tuning in today. Thank you for your live streamers, the comments, and those of you listening via internet radio. It's been a blessed time. And I just want to let you know, tomorrow, Jen Lever will be here for Recovering Now to help you with your loved ones dealing with addiction. And that's always a power time because we talk about supernatural recovery. We're all recovering our life. All right, so have yourself a blessed day. And remember, we are in it together.